Good afternoon, dear colleagues present here in the hall and colleagues joining us online. I'm happy to meet you at our roundtable discussion, Interregional Association of Siberian Agreement on Forestry and Renewable Resources. Before I set the agenda and state the format of work, I would like to introduce our experts who are present in the hall and who will be speaking today at our discussion. The head of the Forestry Department, Alexander Mikhailovich Gura, Vladimir Shashnikov, Governor's Assistant. Yeah, am I right? Panov Alexey Ivanovich, Minister for Forestry of Krasnoyarsk region. Soldatov Vladimir. Yeah, Director of the branch of Россельхоззащита, Center of Forest Health of Krasnoyarsk region. Edham Aukbulatov, Rector, Reshetnev Siberian State University of Science and Technology, named after Reshetnev. Sergei Pobegайло, Director of Xylotech Siberia, which is part of Open Joint Stock Company. Head of our department of Sergei Kolkin. Anton Zhritsov, General Director of ETC Zemprojekt, Assistant of the Head of Forestry of All Russian Organization Business Russia, Gary Gasparin, Head of Working Group of Climate Improvement and Forestry Development of Russia, and Danil Naidionov. We are waiting for him to come. He is a member of the committee of the same company of forestry and sustainable development of the Business Russia. Dear colleagues, we have two adjacent questions on the agenda connected with the solution of the following problem. Substandard forestry, which we have in the forest of Siberia, with its further reforestation of deforested areas and search of solutions to organize the results of this work. Yeah, in our region. Well, our main objective was formed not that long ago. It was done on the 25th of October 2021, and the Committee on the Forestry and Renewable Sources, which is headed by the Governor of Irkutsk region, Kobzev. The relevancy and the topicality of the problem is connected with the following. So, on the 1st of January 2022, the whole territory of forests affected by fire is now more than 5 million hectares, so which results the possibility to absorb carbon dioxide, and this number is approaching 7 million hectares, which increases the possibility to absorb carbon dioxide. So we can see that conversion is 1-to-1. And the volume of dry wood on the territory of Krasnoyarsk territory is more than 1 billion rubles. We have certain conceptual vision of how to organize this work, and today, within the frame of roundtable discussion, we are going to listen to both parts of the project. to understand how the heads responsible for forest policy see it in Irkutsk. And I understand that at this stage we do have some gaps which we have to cover with the help of our expert community. We will do our best to find solutions and come up with answers to these questions, and the result we will get at the very end. Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. So this is the idea, this is how we are going to work. And apart from that, in the preamble I mentioned that there is a parallel between the trees and the observation opportunity. And so we understand that the idea which lies behind our discussion will require certain search of solution of financing solutions, and one of these solutions goes within the framework of our second question, and this is the one which we're going to discuss and to think where to find the financing for this area, and our experts will come up with their own offers and solutions. So we have planned it. So, dear colleagues, if there is nothing to oppose, let's start. And according to the results of our discussion, we will prepare a resolution. And yeah, I understand that we have this project. So, dear colleagues, so please, I ask you to send all your offers relating to this resolution, also send further. So, if you're ready, I would like to give the floor to Alexey Panov, Minister for Forestry of Krasnoyarsk region. Good afternoon, Gennady. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I would like to tell you about Krasnoyarsk Krai and the problems we are facing on the territory of Krasnoyarsk Krai. There is a very acute problem of processing of resins and affected by fire and insects, and what to do with low standard wood and substandard wood. So according to the data of monitoring, on the 1st of January 2022, the area of dead forests is more than 5.4 million hectares, which is 5% of the whole forestry fund of the region. Main reasons for this damage is fires, 3.6 million insects, and other natural disturbances for 48,000 of hectares. And as a result of forest fires, there was dramatic affection on the division and spread of pesticides and dangerous insects. So there were more than 1 million hectares affected by that. From 2018 to 2021, there was another massive spreading of pests and silkworms. And the next important problem is polygraph ussuriski, which stands for more than 550 hectares of pine, which already covers about 40 hectares of north zones. Main territories of affected areas, they are on the territory of Yeniseiski forestry, more than 900 hectares all over. And despite annual damages, all the measures taken to protect, to deal with shelter wood cutting, there is a tendency of growing of this damaged forestry. So recently the territory of damaged plantation grew more than 2.5 times, and more than 70 hectares, from more than 70,000 hectares to 2 million. And main measures covered only 150,000 hectares. And considering that all these sanitary measures all these measures took a lot of softening measures, and we were growing the area of all these measures. So we see that there is very little interest in improving the forestry, and all this happens because of impossibility to further process the forestry and wood, which have no trading qualities. So now in our region we have more than 300 million cubic meters of wood that requires further processing. And to improve this tendency, to stop accumulating damaged forestry and to lower the level of fire hazard, we need to introduce further technological advancements that will help us to use low wood forestry in the production, and which should begin as soon as possible. Also, we are considering an issue of starting or implementing launching a special program to stop the spreading of silkworms on the territory of Siberian area. And as I mentioned, the area of damaged and died territories is more than 800 hectares. And the program should include the building of roads, repossession of plants, and further reforestation measures to ensure the sustainability of forestry and to implement the model of intensive use of damaged forests. So this will help to minimize the amount of damaged forests and protect other forests from cutting. So the forest road infrastructure is poorly developed, and the density of roads doesn't satisfy the needs prescribed by Rospotrebnadzor. And so the accessibility of roads and the length of roads must be not more than 10 kilometers for every 1,000 hectares, and exploiting areas not less than 6 kilometers for every 1,000. But 80% of these roads are intended for winter period only, and they limit the possibility of working of forest preparation organization. So it is worth considering the creation of such roads. And to provide accessibility, we should extend the general length of roads for more than 6,000 kilometers, which will require more than 800,000 kilometers of roads. And to slow down the tendency of growth of affected areas, we should improve the sanitary condition of the forest, and for this we should increase the number of measures. However, the current legislation doesn't let us implement these measures effectively and quickly. So, for example, nowadays, just to start sanitary cutting, or, for example, all the silkworms' nests, first we should organize special research, which is a very time-consuming process, as it requires the measurement of each tree on the area, which is actually excessive considering the massive affection of the territory. And forest pathological areas can prescribe only visual examination of the trees which were damaged by strong winds or strong snowfalls. And so we offered, in order to minimize unnecessary waste of money, to prescribe visual examination before there are such measures. And I would like you to add our offer to the minutes. And also the growth of damaged forests is the violation of norms of cedar cedar plantation. So nowadays the area of damaged Siberian pines is more than 800,000 hectares. So, and despite all the rules prescribed by the law of nature of Russian Federation, so we are supposed to examine such forests, but there is an exception for natural reserves, and so all the Siberian pines shouldn't be cut because of Article 115. Says that the preparation of wood in such areas is forbidden. So my another offer is to add, according to the forestry code, to lift the ban on such preparation in the areas. On the territory of Krasnoyarsky Krai, within the framework of the project, it's been presupposed to organize special measures, to take special measures for damaged plantation to minimize the fire hazard in the area. Well, as a pilot territory, we are planning to implement this on Yeniseiski territory, where in recent years the territory is more than 800,000 hectares. So on the territory of Yeniseiski forestry, we are going to use both measures for open and closed root system. And so such measures will help to increase the access of gases, of green gases, of greenhouse gases. So new trees will help to minimize carbon dioxide dramatically. 1,000 of hectares, which are supposed to be improved, but the necessity stands for 800,000 hectares. So nowadays, forestry isn't about the development because of the dramatic expensive, but all the changes into the legislation acts that will help to simplify the implementation of sanitary measures by visual examination and by lifting the ban on the area will stimulate many industrial companies of the region, and it will help to deal more effectively with substandard wood. And so the development and of complex processing of wood will result in high added value. I would also like to tell you about the processed wood and our further perspectives.
So if we speak about the production of the such kind of timber synthesis and the processing industries in general, summarizing the results of the Krasnoyarsk region, so we have the first place among all the subjects of the Russian Federation. So we have an increase of over 16% in comparison with the 2020. The whole volume is 93,000 of tons. So fuel billet, they are the main manufacturers, Yeniseiski Kombinat, Les Invest company, Lesa Service, and Angara Les, they are the main manufacturers of fuel briquettes. In order just to implement such kind of innovative project, just to work with the forestry industries, and so we also have a kind of plans just to increase the volume of the production from the 200,000 till the 400,000. The production of the different fuel briquettes, they are produced different types of the fuel briquettes, charcoal and DSP and MDF. So we have some companies which are implementing the projects. So moreover, it's connected with the chemicals. So we have different types of pulps, and we're going to increase it to 2 million tons. so just to have a full manufacturing sector. So that will help just to provide the complex usage of the different pulp and also the different byproducts and waste of the timber industry. Of course, it will you will have just invest a great sum of money. It's going to be extremely expensive, but I suppose it's going just to be not until the 2025, but with the current realities, perhaps it will take more time, and we are going just to implement it 2027. So we are going just to organize a special panels and the fiber board. So we are going just to support and just to give a give an assistance to the business. So we are going just to provide assistance, to provide a charcoal from the different affected and infested timbers, and also just to produce new fuel briquettes, just to help just to sell it as internal and external markets. So if we speak about the foresters, we are going just to use different types of the ovens and furnaces, so we can use different premises just to do it. So and just we use such kind of equipment just to produce charcoal, and we have so if the productivity of the such coven about a huge amount of tons every year. So if we speak about their feasibility and the appropriateness just to create and just to build fuel briquette plants, but we are going just to produce more than 10,000 tons of the fuel briquettes. So we have one plant which is successfully manufacturing such kind of products. We have been implementing different types of the substandard timber. So how to work with the byproducts and the waste of the timber industry, we are working quite effectively. So more we work in particular as a fuel briquettes and the different types of the pulp products. So now Siberian Federal University is actively involved into the process. So we think about the different types of the processing of the timber and the woods, and of course we need to use how to use dead woods more effectively. So in conclusion, we may say we will use all these measures to decide and to solve these kind of topics, in particular which are discussed with the insect-infested timber and woods. So that will help us just to succeed, and how to use and how to successfully all adjust, and we need just to keep up with the certain requirements. Of course, we need just to restructure, to reorganize this standardization. We are going to work in a close cooperation with the ministries. And we, of course, will try to do our best. We try just to avoid actually stop of the manufacturing process. So, of course, we are quite concerned about the following situation. And I would like to ask one more question, just to continue my thought. So, pellets, it's a bioproduct, but it's not ecologically friendly, eco-friendly product. So we know for sure if Krasnoyarsk region is equipped with the market and which produce such kind of briquettes, it will cause and will lead to more ecological problems. Here we are more interested in economic issues rather than ecological. It's not that kind of good thing just to transport coal from 600 kilometers, but we have a kind of a forestry industry, and we have a manufacturers which produce fuel briquettes and pellets. So that is now. So we need just to support and those regions or districts where such kind of fuel briquettes and pellets are being manufactured and produced. So we need just to support them. So of course, if we speak about transportation, of course, it's going to be actually not only time-consuming, but it's going to be a quite expensive process. So of course, we need to think about the road infrastructure, because we need just to tolerate possible difficulties which may arise. But in any case, these kind of projects, they are more ecological than pellets. They are more eco-friendly than any other materials which are used just to heat. So So that is much better than the common, for example, coal. So, colleagues, any more questions? You're welcome. Undoubtedly, so the experience which have been accumulated and offered and proposed by the Krasnoyarsk region is extremely valuable and precious for all the regions of the Russian Federation, and the questions which actually were set forth by the Alexander, they are crucial for all of them. So we had a meeting last week with the Ministry of Forestry. More than 75 proposals and amendments have been actually proposed from the different regions and from our associations in particular. They prepared, and also the committee, the profile committee of the State Duma, they actually prepared a great amount of the proposal and amendments to the legislation which regulates forestry and forestry industry. So how just to alleviate taxation burden. So, and of course, I'm pleased that I'm delighted just to see that the discussion we are actually proceeding today is essential and is useful and is utmost importance for us. Now the next speaker and the next report, Vladimir Soldatov, and the director of the federal organization. We are going just to continue this topic. So we have got a kind of a challenge and an interesting question to discuss. So we, for example, decided the question. So we just delivered all the timber into the warehouses, and it's going just to be actually stored with the other products. So is it a possibility that is going to might be infested with the insects or with a kind of a bugs? So would you be so kind just to devote your attention to such kind of issues, how to store timber products? Dear colleagues, and Andrei and Vladimir Konstantinovich, Alexey Ivanovich. So for the last 10 years, it's the first meeting we have, which actually covers such a global problem which is connected with the forestry industry of the Russian Federation. I would like to express my gratitude, my deep gratitude. For the many years we have been trying just to start this conversation to discuss such kind of issues which we have a problem with the Siberian Federal region, a district, and we had a problem, and I have the results of our discussion. They are not going to be left only on paper, but we are going just to also people who will finance and invest money are going just to have. So we have the amount of the forests which are infested and which are affected, 6 and 8 millions of the hectares. It's a huge number, and the amount of the forests which are actually infested or actually damaged. And if you can see the report of our Ministry of the Forest, 300 million of the cubic meters. It's a huge, it's more than on the Russian Federation cutting areas. It's impossible to cut it at once. It's not impossible just to actually to use or to exploit this kind of timber for even for 1 year. So of course, we need to concentrate. We need to work into the close collaboration with the administration, with the community, with the manufacturers. So I have been working for a long time in the forest industry. I have never experienced such kind of situation. There is an accumulation of such amount of the explosive fuel, easy to fuel materials. So that is impossible just to provide the security of such kind of materials. And so of course, for example, dead woods, damaged woods, and degraded wood, they are going to be prioritized to be provided a clear cutting or clear felling. So it's reforestation of such kind of forests is extremely difficult, and I suppose the relevance of such kind of issue is more than important for us. Of course, we need just to deplete or delete such kind of dead woods, and it's important for our country in general. So if we need just to destroy or just to process such kind of timber, which will help us just to minimize the possibility of infestation. We forgot about the perfect technologies of the USSR times when the timber actually was delivered to the warehouses, and we might see lots of insects which actually flight, which actually inhabited all such kind of timbers. So that is the kind of insects which infested. What was done before in the USSR? Let's imagine. So they use speaking water techniques. So or just herbicides usage. Do we have something like that? No. We know the problem. We know that the problem exists. But bromomethyl and fumigation do we use. So Chinese people, Japanese manufacturers, they apply such kind of herbicide, but we don't use it that effectively as such kind. Of course, we know the problem, and we should know how to solve these problems at the different levels. And at the regional level, we can't actually solve it, and we need to communicate, to speak with the business. So what about the importance of the, for example, cutting or felling of the industries? So and how the tractors and how the equipment, how the harvest equipment is going to work there. So we need just to cut, we need to fell these kind of areas of infested woods, and there's a possibility to let the equipment, to let the possibility to tractors. So we need just to have a kind of a help just to make a felling and a cutting of such kind of infested woods. So of course it is a new direction for our scientists, how just to work and how to process such kind of infested and damaged woods. In what results, of course, we need just towards biotechnology, genetics, just to provide a better processing of such kind of woods. And in order just to, if we create such kind of effective processing, we will have the instrument just to organize and to implement new manufacturers, new production areas, and we will create new workplaces for people and for population. Of course, there are certain questions exist which we need just to answer and to pay particular attention just before we start implement and launch such kind of project. The reforestation of such kind of areas is quite problematic and challenging due to the fact that it's difficult just to get there. Yeniseiski region, when the loss of woods actually were infested and destroyed by the silkworm, so it's impossible just to do without the road infrastructure. And so federal and the regional authorities should be fully involved into such a decision of such kind of problems, in particular in terms of the reforestation. So there is one more problem exists concerning with the technology. What should we do there? What can we do? So what can we do just to get their planting materials, young plants? Is it so problematic? How can we see the seedings and the harvesting? So how to answer these kind of questions and respond it? So if we speak, for example, if we speak about pines, it's not going just to grow there. So how just to do the process of reforestation? So perhaps we may use a special method of seedings. So in order just all the kind of woods, it should be actually correlates with the soils they are growing. So what kind of we need different soils. For example, some soils, some plants and some trees, they prefer certain types of soils. For example, so it's complicated. We don't know how to grow such kind of plants. It's difficult to preserve such kind of young plants and how just to the process rejuvenation. Of course, we need just great resources in our region, but we have a certain types of deficit to exist. Who are consumers of such kind of timber? So first is a person, as a human being, then silkworm. And so everything is about the spruce and larch. So we may actually lose the larch of Siberian larch of our biodiversity. So Krasnoyarsk region actually have enough young plants plants just to provide reforestation, but there is, you can witness a kind of a deficit of a certain seeds with the close root young plants. The deficit makes it. Of course, we don't have enough financing, target financing. So of course we need just to grow special saplings with a closed root system. Of course, we need just to use herbicide just to prevent them from the dying. So we don't have special herbicides, insecticides. There is a lack and absence of insecticides and herbicides. For agriculture, such kind of volumes, so it is allowed to use lots of herbicide and insecticides for agriculture, but we can't use such kind of herbicide for just to protect our forest stands. And Alexey Ivanovich has already mentioned that we need just to draft and to amend our legislation. And of course, we have a contradiction or conflict between the different legislative acts. And we need just to dwell on one more problem. So that we have a problem that is a negations which is cultivated among our theorists, that all the representatives of the forestry industries, they are all fraudsters, they are all thieves. So, but there is a contradiction. So, first point, there is a contradiction in the different norms of our legislation, and I would like just to focus and just to how we see the decision of such kind of problems. So we need just to continue, just to improve and to advance the forestry legislation, just to even, for example, to delete all this and to deplete these kind of dead wood products. Of course, we need just to actually advance and enhance system of the way how we may actually maintain our forest stands. We have been structuring for a long time kind of, we use, for example, satellite systems, visual monitoring of our fossil cells. But it's not that easy to use satellite photos. It's a good one, but it's not that effective. It's not that is error and photo because it's really needed. For example, and we need just to pay particular attention to use such kind of methods just to monitor our forests. And of course, we need just to use different examination and just to also to use specific sanitation and rehabilitation measures in order just to protect our forest stands. And of course, we need just to focus on the demands for the business. We have been discussing quite seriously with lots of representatives of such kind of industries. We don't need to steer up or steer clear of such kind of problems, avoid such kind of problems. But in order to solve it, to resolve it, to tackle it properly, we need just to make up 40 hectares for the examination. And are you capable of cutting so many hectares for 1 year? So of course, center of the protection of can't actually examine all these territories at once, because we have lots of different orders from the different forest manufacturers and forest companies. Of course, we need just to be able to solve it and just to have a kind of examination, but we may make it like a stages. We may have a kind of a schedule, and moreover, in particular in Krasnoyarsk region, from the forestry area. But if we have a kind of a large-scale program, we will have just to make and to solve this problem using the stage method. Of course, to reforestation, we need just to have an alternative method of the reforestation. For example, using seeding, for example, larch. Also, that is, my dear colleagues, So just during the short time, I would like just to finish here. I would like to, our proposals will be implemented into the protocol resolution, and in the new legislative initiatives, perhaps are going to be actually proposed or initiated by some territories. But if only Krasnoyarsk region is going just to speak about the legislative problem to the State Duma, but if it is we speak about Siberian Federal District, and we are the huge district, and we are going just to initiate, and we're going just to propose initiatives, and perhaps we may expand it to the Far East problems. We have a similar problems in the Far East as it here in Krasnoyarsk region. I suppose we are going to use in close collaboration. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope we are going to implement it in practical matter.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I'm not offering to ask questions, but let's agree on the following. With the help of organizations, we will have a chance to talk further after the end of discussion, so we will clarify all your proposals later. Thank you very much for your report. We do understand that if we join our forces together, we will definitely tackle this problem effectively. So many issues that you raised, we've planned for discussion, so let's move on. But it's great that you did that, and we understand what to do with all the wood and the warehouse to process. What are the ways of processing? What can we offer to businesses to make it interested in processing substandard wood? For technological part of our project, I would like to give the floor to Edham Akbulatov, rector of Siberian Federal University, named after Reshetnev. You're welcome. Thank you very much, Gennady, dear colleagues. Well, it goes without saying that the topic we are discussing nowadays is a complex, comprehensive topic, including a lot of aspects, starting with monitoring, processing of dead wood, and, of course, the problems of reforestation. I would dwell upon only on one aspect, which refers to technological solutions of processing of substandard wood, and I am going to talk about forest chemical waste. And the complexity of this question is not only in the interest of state structures, but also it is interesting for forest users. And we should consider the system of forest education, which should be changed, relating to the challenges we have. So let me show briefly, in a nutshell, and present the data referring to the areas infected by silkworms. We have the information only on one forestry. This is Yenisei forestry, Yenisei region of Krasnoyarsk Krai. Here, as it has already been mentioned by both Alexey Ivanovich and Vladimir Vladimirovich, that wood covers 882,000 hectares, and the volume of affected wood has been already given. And this territory is showing from 2015 how such area is being developing and reaching the numbers I mentioned. So as for this territory, the territory covers both the territories given for forest users, 17 forest users, and 23% of the territory is on the area for forest preparation, and 77% is given on the territory which belongs to nobody. So why I'm talking about this? This is a problem which concerns both the government, the state, and the forest users. affected forest is a fire hazardous, is a huge fire hazard, as it was mentioned. And here you can see the map of forest fires monitoring on the territory of Krasnoyarsk Krai during 2020 and 2021. So in 2020, on the territory of Krasnoyarsk Krai, there was 1,387, and in 2021, 1,1818 fires. And so the area of the forest covered by fire is growing. Another hazard apart from silkworm, which was provided earlier, the territory affected by silkworm. Another disturbance is Ussuriski polygraphus. Different types of trees are affected by these polygraphus, mostly by pine trees, spruce trees, and so such wood is not suitable for any processing. But the experts from our university actually state that chemical processing of such wood affected by polygraphus ussuriski is actually possible. And starting here, I would like to move on further and talk about the wood affected by Siberian silkworm. That's why I'm dwelling upon it. But as it was mentioned, Ussuriski polygraphus affected a huge territory, which is similar to the one affected by silkworms. So nowadays, it's more than 560,000 hectares on the territory of Krasnoyarsk Krai, and this is a really serious issue. So that's why the university has been working on the development of certain technologies for deep processing of this vegetation, for example, for the wood affected by polygraphus ussuriski. And I'm going to tell about the results of this problem, considering further that we can actually use these results for the wood affected by Siberian silkworm. So in our university, for more than 50 years, we have been working on the improvement of the technology of working with fiber materials using deep chemical processing of biomass wood. It is headed by Yuri Anashkevich. He's here together with his colleagues and the heads of two profile universities who are dealing with this topic. And our laboratories, over this period of time, we have conducted a number of practical works for cellulose and pulp industries, for Baikalsky Cellulose and Pulp University and other institutions which were more than satisfied with the results of this work. In our university, we have special laboratory equipment that helps to model almost all of the processes related to chemical processing of wood. Here on the slide, you can see the results of the research conducted on the wood affected by polygraphus ussuriski. This is fir, which was processed using traditional sulfate cellulose, and the raw material was provided from Yemelyanovsky district of Krasnoyarsk Krai. Here you can see the data, and the cellulose outcome is equal to 40%, but traditional processing of material gives 45%. So we have quite adequate results. On this particular slide, you can see the information relating to the results, to the outcomes we got, independent of the year of the affection. So you can see that that even 10-year period of damage is actually equal to the production of cellulose, which were received on the wood on fir tree affected by polygraphus ussuriski. Nowadays, a working group of researchers is analyzing the wood infected by silkworm, mostly Siberian pine and pine. And so, using the results received, we have conducted negotiations with a group of LIN who are interested in organizing and carrying out a supplement, additional researchers to draft reglement and legislative acts that would help us to focus on the raw materials that we get from damaged wood. So we are planning to finish these laboratory experiments, and we definitely need support to keep on conducting negotiations with the group of companies Elin, who are also experiencing problems with forest raw materials base, and so using damaged forest for such research would be a great support. So the question is how to prepare such wood. Here again you can see Yeniseiski district and the problem we had with Siberian silkworm. And the development of the infrastructure will mainly depend on the fact if we can borrow such wood or not. The analysis provided by our specialists in relation to the existing transport infrastructure states that about 25% of the wood that of the dead wood which they have there can be processed, and this wood shouldn't be farther than 10 kilometers away from the transport infrastructure we have now. So we assume that about 50 million cubic cubes of wood can be used. And so this can be processed and delivered for further preparation. So the time needed depends on the period of damage. So either to use it in assortment or in grinded form to bring it to the production plants. So our proposals, I think we should finish the research on samples of wood damaged by silkworm. We are planning to do it within the next months. We assume that with the proper support of Forest Ministry and Siberian Agreement, we might start experimental preparation of cellulose, but here we need political support and organizational support. And if this decision, if these decisions or if these solutions proves practical, and we are sure that practicality will prove effective because the raw materials we have, they are effective for such processing, then the next step would be to discuss issues related to legislation. And it was mentioned by Alexey Ivanovich, and probably also the questions of state stimulation, like subsidies for part of our expenses, so that we could really organize such work. And after the wood is prepared, then we would be dealing with the questions of reforestation. That's all that I wanted to say. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Edham, dear colleagues. At this particular stage, we see that we have another option, which is not quite traditional in terms of its practicality, in terms of practical wood processing. But the prospective market of cellulose will expand dramatically if we go away from polymers for packaging, not only in our country, but in other countries as well. So this is quite important. So another thing I would like to dwell upon is that in certain perspective regions, certain perspective areas, we just do not have infrastructural limitations. to process 50 million cubic meters of wood. So this is a source of raw materials, which we just should adjust to technological schemata. So going further, we now understand better which economic parameters this project might have. So we should speed up a little bit. Now, please do not justify the necessity for work further. Just start telling about the practice. And we have a speaker from St. Petersburg. That's gonna be online conference. Thank you very much to the colleagues who woke up so early to join our work. And I will ask Vasily Mikhailovich Didier, the head of processing biomass of St. Petersburg University. And considering how early it is and it's time to drink coffee, please, just 5 minutes for you. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me well? Yeah. Great. Dear colleagues, well, just in a nutshell, I will share my proposals on how to deal with this problem. So to process low-grade wood, our university has developed a number of technologies. And, for example, the technology of using extrusive thermomechanical mass, which can be used as a raw material to produce paper, cardboard, and things that can be made from them. And it can be used also for theme of shaping or thermoforming. Disposable plates and cups, and the technology of production of coal with a high level of carbon dioxide, which can be used not only as fuel but also to produce high carbon steel, and fiber wood and furniture. Well, as this technology of chipboards by dry method presupposes the usage of melamine, phenol, formaldehyde resins, all these resins are received with the help of using formaldehyde. And we have a lot of practical experience, and we use catalyst. As for the processing of substandard wood and low-grade wood as raw material for extruded mass, we use its further processing is important to produce paper and cardboard and things made from them. Let's do the following. We will be showing the presentation, and you will just be telling us where to move. So I will just show the technological scheme. Yeah, you just continue. We'll do it here. So here you have the technological line of production. You can see that the technology of extrusive mass is different from classical way of producing thermomechanical mass, mostly by the usage of extruder, which accelerates the process of getting the pulp at low temperatures and at low pressure. The output of the production, the output is up to 80%. So the biggest advantage of this way of production is if we compare it with classical way of production. First of all, we don't need a lot of raw materials because this type of production presupposes the use of low-ton products from 10 to 70,000 tons of pulp a year. This allows to place such plants closer to forest raw materials plants, and this minimizes expenses for transportation. Another benefit is low necessity in water resources, because usually cellulose pulp production requires a lot of water. So if we compare with traditional method, we usually spend about $3,000 to produce such pulp. We spend only $2,000 shop. But the extrudite pulp is just about $300 shop. Well, thus, we minimize the expenses and we minimize the term of profitability. That's about a year up to 1.5 years, as compared to the traditional production to big plants usually spend about 7 to 10 years to cover the expenditure. So we don't need a lot of investments because usually the cost of such a plant is from $3 to $23 million. And such plants are ecologically safe because they have a closed circle of water circulation and reduction in air pollution. The production of extrusive pulp from low-grade wood allows to get the profitability of 30 to 50%, depending on the type of raw materials. And the introduction of such paper-making machines and things made from such products due to the minimization of costs. Yeah, because we change the cycle of the work. And a higher cost of final output, so the profitability might reach about 100%.
The next method of the processing of timber waste, so we use special autonomous or mobile equipment tools, we may use different wood waste and byproducts, but also from the different logging, from the felling, different infested and damaged timber might be used in such kind of manufacturing. So we may produce a specific timber mice, so we can say out of 85% out of the cubic meter. So like only 20% of the waste, and such kind of waste might be processed with such kind of equipment with the help of the coal. So it is with a high rentability and effectiveness and profitability. So we need just to show the certain indicators, and the next slide will show us. So that is of high profitability process and the equipment. So you can say there are some special equipment for the pyrolysis process. So we can see how many coal do we need per year. So about 20 tons a day. As for the processing of such kind of damaged or dead wood, we will such kind of process will help us just to solve a number of ecological problems, just to decrease the, for example, fire hazards, and just for sequestration of the carbon with the deforested areas. So such kind of technologies which were actually proposed, of their output we have about 80% in comparison with the pulp. When in terms of the pulp industry, we have only output only is 45%. So we use twice less raw materials in comparison with other processing. So I would like just to dwell on the fact that such kind of technologies, they will help us just to solve, they actually help us to solve this, the problem which actually exists and arose. So that is a real fact, and this is a reality. And such kind of technologies we may offer and propose to implement in Krasnoyarsk region and to employ it in Krasnoyarsk. Thank you very much. I'm sorry just to make you hurry up. So today we have just seen a case. So, and in terms of the economic, it's quite an effective and a profitable process. But we need to understand what do we need just to do with coal. Can we use it with the different products of the technical coal? But all these practical issues we are going to discuss later. So if you don't have a question to the speaker, thank you very much. We are going just to collaborate quite effectively and closely with all their scientists and scholars, and I would like just to offer all the universities to work in a close cooperation and interaction with all the companies and manufacturers. I would like just to focus and to draw your attention to the special factors which we need just to speak in manufacture, in particular in such type of substandard wood and timber. We know the complexity of and the complexity of the process of the processing of such kind of industry, and of course it depends on the quality of raw materials. And the next speaker, which we are going just to give a floor, and this speaker is going just and would like just a colleague just to concentrate and to focus on the proposals. I will give a floor to the backup catalysator, Alexander Viktorovich Tarasevich. Can you hear us? Hello, dear colleagues. I would like to, now I'm going just to show my presentation. Organizers, do we have presentation? Let's start. We are going to start presentation and you're going just to direct us. Dear colleagues, today I'm going just to represent a quite important factor as a formaldehyde and the different resins. So that is a kind of a strategic question. We have a kind of already learned and practice. So how just to produce a formaldehyde, just to organize the deepened processing of the timber, and just to work not only for export but for import. The formaldehyde is one of the major products for chemical industry. So the global production is 40 million tons, about 3 million produced in Russia. The most of the part of formaldehyde they use for the production for the different types of the resins. And the major consumer, of course, it's a different forestry industry. The main, actually, companies which buy such kind of products and we use it in their production. So the production of the formaldehyde is the catalyst process. So we may produce formaldehyde only with the one catalyst of the certain type. So there is a question arises So we have a great manufacture of formaldehyde production we have, but the second question arises: why there is a kind of easier possibility just to buy such kind of formaldehyde in a large amounts, because the term which we may store, which we need just to produce resins, only because we may store it only for 2-3 days, and the transportation shouldn't be longer than 100 kilometers. Of course, we need just to use special containers which should be heated. And we can only store in such kind of containers only for 1.5 months, so that it's quite complicated to transport such kind of products. And of course, all the different products made of the formaldehyde, of course, they have a certain restrictions in terms of the manufacturing process. Now I'm speaking about the practice which exists now in world. All the global manufacturers, all their different timber products, and they have their own manufacturer production areas which produce formaldehyde and the different reasons. So Kronospan, about 40, is the biggest manufacturer of the formaldehyde. They have more than 40 plants in 30 countries, and we have such kind of plants in Belarus and in Russia. Only 2 plants. It's and the 4th place in European, and lots of Kastamonu is also one of the leading producers of the timber processing industry. They have more than 10 plants over the world. As for today, all the Russian manufacturers of formaldehyde in Russian, they are dependent on catalyst producers from Sweden, Denmark, and Italy. So in the 90s, our country actually produced catalysts, but after 90s, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, we stopped producing catalysts. But 3 years ago, there was a new goal was set forth, but just to create a new modern catalyst, and we made a new experimental catalyst, and also new laboratories actually confirmed the effectiveness of the new catalyst. And soon, I suppose, we are going to cover all their need and demand of Russian manufacturers. So we are not going. We can manufacture catalysts and not going to be dependent on anyone. So we're going just to speak clearly. So we export to Novosibirskaya Oblast #1. We export. Just a moment. Can you just come back to the previous slide? So just the first. So we have a certain problems which we discussed today about the timber and woods, which is actually infested with the insects, and there is a kind of a ban which actually exists. We have all the pretexts and all the prerequisites just to create new manufacturers, like a full cycle of the processing manufacturers, in particular of the chemical production as well. So we are open to collaborate with all of them. Thank you very much, colleague, for the attentions. Thank you very much. Arkady Viktorovich, my component which I would like to dwell on in terms of the reports which have been made. So we have a kind of competitive edge in Krasnoyarsk region, and we may actually, all our plants may be ruined. Thank you very much for the report. So let's move further. I would like just to offer, just to continue this kind of topic. In this case, Executive General Vice Text Engineering Petro Alexandrovich. I would like just to focus more on proposals rather than theoretical materials. Colleagues, thank you very much. I would like to organize this to demonstrate a screen. Unfortunately, due to the latest developments, I have changed my report, my presentation. So that's why, can you give me the right to demonstrate a screen? So you're welcome. Colleagues, I would like to try to do my best and quite short and precise to give a short overview of the report. So we have been working a lot, and we've tried to promote the idea of just to create a fully Russian manufacturing production cycle. So in terms of chemicals for the timber processing, we have and different chemicals, substances actually exist, which are used in chemical and in timber processing industries. So on this slide, I'm going just to enumerate some products which can be made with the usage of the formaldehyde resins, DSP, MDF, different types of the plywoods and different resins which we may do with the help of the formaldehyde. They are used not only in a specific areas of industries, but also different type of resins. They might be used for DSP, MDF, and different fiber boards, wood fiber boards. And as for formaldehyde, it's a different for abrasive, and they can be used in a different sectors of production. I would like to focus in detail what is formaldehyde equipment. So it consists of major parts. So, which may say the key licensors which actually act within the territory of Russia. So that pest-infected company. So that is within their that is actually production and the products of the Great Britain. It is produced in the Great Britain, so it's going to be quite complicated soon. So of course there are certain points and certain devices they are produced in a different European country. Just in order to create such kind of tool, you need to have your own catalyst. But of course, you need to have a kind of a certain equipment. I'm going just to enumerate the main tools which are used in such kind of equipment. So I can give you a kind of. So we are not dependent on the input. So we have a kind of reactor. So several companies may produce reactors in Russia, in particular in Siberian Federal District. So a special column or observation column, it's a special stream. So we can use formaldehyde, which is connected or linked with the water, or with a special carbamide substance, just to have a kind of substance. So while there is with the production of the formaldehyde, there is a great amount of heat. So we have a kind of steam drum which is used. Any kind of a plant may actually manufacture, produce it, and all this as for the production of the resins, so it's like a periodical. So it's based on the reactors. I would like just not going to focus on that. nearly all the equipment we may actually manufacture, produce in Russia, no, with the exception of some components for automatic processing. But I hope China will help us to cope with these challenges. Any types of resins might be used and might be produced with universal processing tools. So I would like to speak about the raw materials which are used to produce resins. So if we speak about formaldehyde resins, that are special resins which are used for the plywood and for the fiberboards, and the key elements of the phenol and formaldehyde. So phenol you may actually find in Russia, filaminovenous resins, melamine, but also you may find these kind of raw materials in Russia, and we may buy it in China. Carbamide resins we may find in Russia, and also some hybrid resins. So unfortunately, we have a lack of time. Can you make proposals? We offer the following. We are competent enough, and we may offer our competences, and in a cooperation with the catalyst, we may produce we may make up the production of the resins and any kind of resins of any kind of scale. So 1 cubic meter of our material, we will need 120, 150 kilograms of resin. The typical engineering tool for synthesis of formaldehyde with the resin, they let us just to have from 60 to 70 tons of 300 of the panel of fiberboard production. So if we see the interest from the timber processing companies, we are going to work, and we would like to work in a close cooperation with those who actually produce different types of the middle density fiberboards and other boards. Thank you very much, colleagues. That is a kind of goal which we need just to follow and just to, I suppose, objective just to pursue. So there's a problem with exported raw. So I would like to offer those who are responsible for such kind, in particular authorities, how to solve this kind of problem. As for the engineering companies, I would like just to prepare technical basis just to make up typical. So what about how to create and to build the production and the plants? How long will it take? Profitability and all other issues. And I suppose we are going just to organize a dialogue, but also risks exist. Let's go further.
Yeah, another question which was raised a little bit earlier. With the representative of the President of the Russian Federation here, and what you mentioned is the question related to the verification of the parameters and statements. At the discussion with the representative of President, we were talking about usage about taxation of raw materials. So this is the initial part of work that should be implemented and done. That's why today we have invited an organization which is providing such services on the territory of Siberia, again with the usage of unmanned aerial machines, vehicles. There's a company Robot who are producing unmanned vehicles for forest as well. Igor Nikolaevich Tretyakov, the head of the company. Yeah, Igor, I will just ask you that everybody knew before about unmanned vehicles, just mention that they're yours, not from other countries, and then move on to proposals. Yeah, of course, thank you very much. So just, I'm going to show you a couple of slides and to put everything in a nutshell. Good afternoon, dear colleagues and participants of the roundtable discussion. I am the head of Gamma Robotics, developing different complex solutions to use unmanned aerial vehicles. So what questions can be solved with the help of our vehicles? In terms of forestry, I would highlight four most important. That's control of the forestry, looking for poachers, inventorization of forestry. I guess it's the most important one. And of course, help to index the forest, analysis, protection and planning of the territories, getting real-time data. We can deal with fires much faster. Just a couple of most important moments and materials that we get when using unmanned aerial equipment. So first of all, that high quality photo plan, which can be used to to upgrade maps and to create 3D models of forest areas, to estimate the volume and the area of the object. Using digital models, we can calculate the area, as I mentioned, of damaged areas with dry wood. For example, wood. Like talking about geodesic materials, 3-5 centimeters on the plan and 8-10 centimeters in reality. So using digital materials of high quality, we can analyze the type of the forest, assess sanitary condition of the wood, estimate and just state the reasons for the damage, and assess the area of cutting area and other ways of assessment for cutting areas using visualized assessment. Digital materials can be provided with a system of coordinates. Materials done in different formats, which will simplify their further usage when implementing various projects or when placing them on these platforms. And using the platforms, so which I wanted to mention, we can make multi-layer maps and make reports using additional supplementary materials, tables, reports, retrospective data, to compare with the existing plans and existing condition, and to place the files on for on-the-ground placement. And for all this, we can optimize the usage of geoinformational systems such as logistics, which are already widespread. Just a tiny example, that's illegal trees cutting. So such events also, such situations also help to build legislation. Another example how you can use it, this is video monitoring and controlling the situation when there is a fire hazard or fires are happening. And we are looking for more and more ways to apply these vehicles. So just to summarize, I would like to say that complexes of unmanned aerial vehicles allow us to digitalize forests and forestries in very high quality that will help to actualize the maps and upgrade the maps, and to form the models for further usage, to perform taxation of the forest with fewer human resources than ever, to assess the area of damage, and to inventorize the forestry fund, its usage or illegal usage. We are planning in the next week to deal with protection of small areas of forestry in Krasnoyarsk Krai. Thank you for your attention. I'll be happy to answer all your questions. Thank you very much. Yeah, I would also want to offer a certain practice. As a result of your work with the Center of Protection of Forestry, I would ask you to prepare a report with the information so that we could use this material further in practice. And I guess it would be interesting for both the authorities and the bodies responsible for forestry, for forest policies. This will be more than useful. For Siberia, in Siberia we have great areas of forests, and we definitely need modern technologies, and we should accelerate. Yeah, we're really interested in your proposal. We will be working on it further. So my recommendation is to contact other specialists from other areas. So, dear colleagues, we have finished the first part of questions related to the technicality of the project, and well, as I look at Alexei, he heard a lot of useful things. We will add to it later and we'll go further. I'll ask you to, I want to draw your attention to the project of our resolution. These recommendations need the addition of new proposals and send them to Sergei Ivanovich so that we could make this document as efficiently as possible. Now we are moving to the second part of the discussion, and I will ask all the participants not to stop and not to take a lot of time. So, but at least to send all of your presentations and reports, to add them to our platform so that everybody could work with that. So the next part of questions is the organization of financing for such projects. And I would like to ask to give the last 10 minutes to our colleagues. Natalia Gennadievna Yershova, the Minister of Irkutsk, and Yulia Zolotova. I hope she is here, the Director of Center for Industrial Research and Consulting, and shares their expertise on these questions. So, Natalie, very happy to see you. You're welcome. Dear colleagues, dear Gennady, I'm really happy to see all of you as well. Can you hear me well? Yes, we can see you well and we can hear you perfectly well. I'll start my presentation. We'll share my screen. Can you see the presentation? No, unfortunately we can't see the presentation. I can actually do without presentation. Yeah, we'll break your tradition. The question is I'm going to deal with is the most interesting. No matter what you do, no matter what project you're trying to implement, the question is always about the money and where to take it. That's from one perspective. On the one hand, in the current situation, which is changing so fast, and the factor of insecurity, we're actually trying to be very positive with my colleagues, because we think that now we have the time of big perspectives, and this is mostly connected with the fact that markets are getting freed, and for forestry and for forestry processing complex, now we have new possibilities opening, and we should definitely catch them. And on our behalf, as the Ministry of Economic Department, and my colleagues would support me from Siberian Federal District, we are ready to create great conditions to realize such projects. First of all, and this is our priority, this is part of green ecology, and the projects we are considering nowadays, forest climatic projects, they are also part of these green economics, which we are not going to refuse from. Here in Irkutsk district, we have potential investors, and they're quite numerous, and they are developing and growing millions of seedlings, about 12 million saplings are being grown to develop forests. And still we haven't closed our need in 10 million more plants, saplings, and so this need will be growing. We need about about 3 billion rubles to grow this number of saplings. And of course, nowadays, our credit instruments are not very attractive. The key rate is more than high. And this can be scary for investors to take part in this project. But actually, now the situation in the Russian Federation and the subjects of the Russian Federation, we have a lot of mechanisms and instruments of support, of financial support, which have been working for a long time, and they have proved to be effective to support such projects. I can say that we do not have direct measures of support for forestry at the moment, but devil is always in the details, and the support of such projects must be comprehensive. On the one hand, using Irkutsk Oblast as a case, we offer very big tax preferences, and if forestry and the reforestation project is part of this, then they will also fall within such privileges. For example, we can offer regional investment projects where the rate can be lowered up to 0% in terms of tax on profit and tax on property. We can offer the territory of other privileges and benefits, again, in relation to taxes on profit and property. All the instruments of support providing beneficial rates on loans. And I don't know as for our other colleagues, but in this particular situation, considering the growing rate, we are not going to do this with our loans as a fund of industry development for nobody. All the rates are still the same as they used to be at the beginning of the year, from 1 to 5%, depending on the type of the loan. So, of course, we are going to do everything to save these conditions, to keep the investor on the territory, because it is very important for us. Moreover, we have federal measures of support which are still working and which still prove effective. The development of cities, which are allowed to get up to 1 billion rubles, and we have this cooperation MSP, which supports any project if it is not about small-scale entrepreneurship. And it's about 2%, and the sum is up to 2 billion rubles. I would like to know that colleagues have some problems with technologies, with the conduction of scientific research. I would like to remind you that in Irkutsk region last year we created a scientific center, Baikal, which there are only 15 in the Russian Federation, and such centers are designed to bring closer business and science and to cover the gap between the technologies which are needed. And right at this moment, such centers prove its effectiveness and importance for us especially. Well, in general, talking about the measures of support, that's everything I wanted to say. And I would also like to know that we are ready to cooperate, and it would be interesting and useful if we were offered something on a federal level, some measures of support for local projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I have got two things which we need just to complete. Once again, I'm going just to come back to such kind of question with your colleagues with the framework of our working group, with economists. So we need just to work with the profile departments of Ministry of Finance and Forestry Ministry, just to work in a close collaboration and just to tackle this kind of issue. So please just focus your attention and mind the experience of the Irkutsk Oblast, and it can be an essential part of your actually discussion. Thank you very much for the report. I would like to give the floor Galene Iverine Zolotova. She is the director of the Financial Institute of the government of the Russian Federation. I'm pleased to see you. Hello. I have known you for a long time as a key specialist in finance of green projects. So we are going just to be pleased with your commentary. Thank you very much, Gennady. Gennady, I'm really pleased to see you that we are going to see online, but I would like just to give a hug to all the participants. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm going just to demonstrate my presentation. I will try to do my best and just to be in order just to speak more about the points which were stated by Elena Gennadievna. Yes, we may see the headline of the presentation. So it's very problematic for me just to skip. So internet is working. So it's better just to have kind of visuals to support my speech, but unfortunately organizers don't have presentation. I will try just to download and this, but I'm going to start. Okay, okay, we'll try to do, okay, it is working. Okay, so I'm going just to say that this report was made with an assistance, with the assassination, with the assistance of the cycling or renew economy. It's a kind of a pilot project. So it's like a model project in the context with the implementation as a climate project, in the context as a search of the new resources for finance and such kind of projects. So that is a kind of problematic idea in how to finance such kind of project, but this kind of project, so we may actually to generate CO2, or so we need kind of 40 hectares in terms of the territory. So we have just to work with the pine. So if we speak, so what we have capex, so what is the minimum complex of CO2? So how can we actually refer this kind of project as an effective? So that is 450 rubles for the tons of CO2. So that is a kind of organizing model which can be actually look of this of such kind of climate project. So that is like a child game when we can use some arrows to find where is the end. Of course, we need just to conclude a certain contract to sell CO2. So that is like an effective instrument, even taking into account all the developments which are happening at the moment. But we are going just to, I'm going to speak about this at the end. So we may have just two moments. So first of all, we need to choose the right project. So you need just to check up all the technical documentation, just to have a kind of have a survey with the help of the expert to speak about the how to monitor the, to see the monetary result, to monetary result of such kind of project. And of course, just we need to prepare a kind of expanded some standards to expand explanation of the standards and to unify, to have a kind of unification of all the standards according compliance with the standards existed. And the second component of a such kind of course, it's the second component is the financial and business model and the possibility to finance such kind of project. I'm going to speak about three components, how just to contribute the risk between the participants of the CHAS project and all the projects which are connected with the reforestation as a climate project, where we can be considered with the common projects. They have certain, but they have certain peculiarities. So of course we need, as for the common project, we have for investment we have 2 or 3 years. But if we are to speak about reforestation, of course it's about 10 years. It will take from 10 to 30 years to take just to see the results of your investments. So, and of course about the possibility to observation of the trees, so which is regenerated, which are actually altered into the carbon substance. So that is the project might be considered as a unique in terms of marginality. So it may, you have a margin more than 50%, but of course it is in a long-term perspective, mostly in the long term of cycle of the investment, more or less. So first of all, the first model is nearly zero. I called it like a nearly zero model. All the risks and all the burden on the investors, and all the burden is on their shoulders, but also all the income, if we want just to realize and to sell CO2, is going just to be investors. Only some sum of money will be given to region, but only €1, for example, for a region for one the dopings of the CO2. So more $500 million of their rubles might be the income for the year. But of course, all the burden is on the shoulders of the investor. The second model is the 50-50 model, when the investors sponsors or contributes only 50% of their money, which might be invested. And different methods might be used. Different, for example, it might be green project, which may be which were launched by Moscow before. But also we need just to think how to attract this kind of sum of money, this investment to the regions. Perhaps it's better to have some tax preferences. And of course, there are some questions arise how to pay for the certain works. Of course, this kind of investment plan is more risky, but there is a kind of opportunity to increase the income which may actually region may get. So of course, and obviously, we are considering the business plans and business investment. Of course, businesses they will have their own part in such kind of investments, and they get money, because any business is aimed at profit, at getting profits and obtaining profit. So definitely, we need just to speak about the effectiveness and the profitability of the project, just to be effective and profitable for all their participants and investors. And the last model, we may say, in such kind of case, we don't attract investment assets, and we use only money of their region. So we may that such kind of measures, they exist just to simplify such kind of projects in terms of economy. For example, green bonds, which we may use. We may finance everything by ourselves, but of course burden is huge and expenses are higher, but potential income which we can get in future is also much bigger. So I've taken into account their economic situation we are facing now. And of course, we have to adapt all the investments to the new reality. But we need just to understand we have already actually we kind of a new Sakhalin, a new act, legislation act has been adopted about Sakhalin. And the Sakhalin will be a kind of a base where we can create a market for the CO2. So that is, we may speak about, we have a kind of a new stimulus, we can put a premium on such kind of investment projects, and such kind of element and processes which we may use to compensate our investment projects. So my So you can see my proposals on the slide, which I have shown. Elvira Yurina, thank you very much for the prepared case. All the business models we have actually seen today, we may actually compare with the project we have already launched. So in terms of such kind of projects, we may use such kind of model or a method or approach to provide effectiveness, and even in such kind of, I suppose, situation. We are over with our agenda. We have 2 more minutes. I would like to Vladimira Konstantinovicha. He has been writing a lot of notes. So can you just comment on the proposal which have been made? Thank you very much for today's event, for today's discussion. I would like to that Vladimir Vladimirovich has touched the topic: who owns the forests, who actually just work with the forestry, how to use the resources in forestry industries and in forestry in particular more effectively. So that is the process which connected with the renters. We give them the right, but we don't give them responsibility or liability for their actions. They are not liable for their actions. So it's a kind of coefficient how effectively timber and woods is used. So that is why so our indicators is not 95%, it's much lower now, I believe. So we have discussed a lot today. We need just, so who is the host, who is the owner of the forestry? So who can assess, who can estimate the condition of the forestry which is in rent now? So if we speak about the different insects, for example, polygraphs, silkworms, so the reason of such kind of high level of infestation is because there is irresponsibility of those who rent and who work in such kind of industry. So that is a current and burning issue now for forestry industry. It is, this kind of question is connected with the usage of those timber and woods and the usage of such kind of timber. We today has been working with and has been discussed in Yeniseiski region, and we discussed the high level of infestation with the insects. And those companies who actually, which actually rented such kind of territory, they didn't complete their obligation. They didn't fulfill their obligations properly. So we need to think about how to organize the process in advance. So the project we have been, so we may use such kind of for such kind of dead wood or damaged or substandard wood we may use for the road creation and building. So that's why only last year and the before year, more than 1 hectares we lost forest and fires and wildfires. So also we don't have a special season roads, season tracks to get to the forestries. We are going just to create a road infrastructure, and these kind of roads are going just to help to prevent fires, to combat fires. So, and judging the discussion which was headed by you, and we are going just to collaborate together and to consider the questions which arise. For the last 20 years, more than pulp and paper industries, they are to be made, but they haven't been made so far. We don't fell some specific types of the timber, and we just leave it in the forestry. Light wood industry, light wood in particular, light timber. So we need just to collaborate all the members of associations and to work on the project. So 20 billion is going to cost us to build pulp and paper plant. So what is 100 rubles and 1 cubic meters of the timber? So we don't need just to wait just to create a plant. For 3 or 4 years we may work together and to build up a pulp and paper plant. And it doesn't matter who is going to be an owner, it might be association. But this kind of problem might be resolved quite effectively if such kind of plant is built within these 3 or 4 years. So that's a major problem. We need just to think about it. And of course, we have some serious proposals about how to make the reforestation. And after today's meeting, we are going just to take our representatives of the associations to discuss such kind of issues with using the experience of the Irkutsk Oblast. And that might be a kind of a start just to resolve and to tackle these kind of issues effectively and proficiently. So we have already set forth a goal just to be completed in future at the regional and state level. Thank you very much. So we are going just to upload all the materials on our officials site. So we are going just to think, we are going to take some time to prepare the resolution. We will have a chance to continue our negotiations using the negotiation room number 2. So at the moment we need just to articulate and to air our ideas and proposals. Thank you very much for participation.